want to really do is look at past elections, what's happened in the past. Let's really compare past to what we're dealing with presently. And we're going to highlight some future residential and commercial areas that I think everybody should be paying attention to. So if you're listening to this, hopefully you get some golden nuggets out of those. But to start, who's the buyer, man? Our phones have been blowing up over the last week and a half. Mm-hmm. It definitely feels like a different January than last year. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I had to make a new inbox.
You got to get a little closer.
I had to make a new inbox in our admin email just for inquiries, about people wanting to buy homes.
Yeah, well, and part of that's like we have a Facebook, like, hey, here's some houses. This is what you can find in southern Utah.
I'm just saying the activity's coming in.
It's coming in quite a bit.
In a big way.
Yeah,
certainly.
And then
a lot more than last January.
The actual conversation. So we held an open house on Friday, Saturday. And it's funny because these two types of buyers that we got up here right now, this is exactly who walked through that house, right? Mm-hmm. It's $1 million house with beautiful views in Sunbrook. There's really two types of buyer in the market right now. There's a third, but that's the first-time home buyers, and they're always in the market. I mean, they're always existing. It's just what's possible and what's not.
And there aren't a lot of variables that make a first-time home buyer not a first-time home buyer. I mean, interest rates, I guess, can influence that a little bit. But if somebody's in the market for a house, they're in the market for a house.
Yeah, exactly. So thinking about who these two types of buyers, these are the people buying houses. So we had the young retiree. This is probably 55, like really started like right around that 55 age, all the way. I mean, it kind of goes all the way up into the 70s because, most people, they're planning on retiring here. They're going to do it before it gets really late in the game. But the young retiree, so newer built, most of them are wanting something newer, single level, 3 beds. Most of them want like a casita of some kind, right? Whether it's 3 beds with plus the casita or of the 3 bedrooms, one of them being kind of like a little suite, bathroom attached, maybe a kitchenette so that people can come stay and they can kind of be autonomous, or they have an older mother, right? So somebody that is now living with them. They're retired, but now their mom is still retired and still mom or dad is still around. So the casita would be for them. 3-car garage minimum. I tried to pull up HOAs, no HOA. So this is a standard neighborhood, no community amenities or anything. Since 2019, there's one home built without an HOA that has a 2-car garage that's on a single level. Like 2-car garages, aside from townhomes, it's like we decided we're going to only build 2 townhomes with 2-car garages, and then everything else has a 3-car garage. So it's kind of obvious our inventory reflects 3-car garage being huge important. Mm-hmm. And then views. We have a lot of neighborhoods with views, but what one person's view is, somebody else doesn't think is nice enough, right? So we have golf course views, city views. Do they want to look at the Red Rocks? Some people are like, I'm too close to Red Mountain. It's like too big, right? So if you're too close to Red Mountain, even though you have this beautiful view, to me, they're like, it's just like overwhelming. Yeah. And then the other buyer, I typed in old millennial, and I got this pretty funny picture of a gray-haired guy with a backpack on, looking like he's about to go skateboarding, which is pretty funny. But ages 30 to 40 years old. They want newer built as well, 4+ bedrooms, so 4 bedrooms or more. 2 separate living spaces is super important to them. They really care about the schools, so really the fields, Little Valley, Crimson area seems to be like the attraction out there in the fields. Local amenities, so whether it's shopping close by, a lot of them want, they might not want a pool at their house, but they want a pool like maybe in an HOA, so some of them want that. And most of them, if not all of them, are getting loans. Whereas the young retirees, most of them are cash, some of them are loans, but for the most part, they're all cash buyers. So I think it's an interesting profile. It's pretty much been this profile, I think, for the last couple of years, maybe a decade or so. But these are the clear-cut types of buyer in southern Utah. We're getting a lot of people that are working remote. So like those older millennials, they're making good money just working remote. I talked to a kid, him and his wife both work remote. They homeschool their kids, and they were interested in our Apple Valley listing out there. But he makes great money. He's probably 38 years old, thinking about buying a $800,000 to $900,000 house. And he bought early on in, his career. So he's had 2 houses already that he's basically just upgraded each time with equity. Now he's got a bunch of equity again and ready to, he's almost in that. You could buy your dream home now off that 3rd run. So there's a lot of those in the market, and they're coming from all over the place. I was collecting license plates at the home open house. We had before noon, this is from 9 to 12. We had 2 from Washington, 1 from Montana, 1 from Wyoming, 2 from Colorado. Just all before noon. It was just like one right after another, and they were all coming in here from a ways away, not just like down the
I think
street.
there were some people from Idaho too that swung in.
Oh, you had an Idaho one too. Yeah. So they're coming from all over the place. Let's click over to the next one. Let's look at some of the past data. So I wanted to pull up the last few election years just to see like what really happens in election years. Like, oh, well, the election year is really going to impact something. Well, looking at the graphs, it really does depend, but there's a lot going on. So if you go all the way back to 2010, 2012, this is memory lane for some people. December of 2012, we had just elected, I think, is that Obama on his last term, right? Median price. This is the housing market is just starting to kind of come back to life. So we had median active home for sale was 270,000. That was Fantasyland here in Southern Utah. Sold was actually $219,000 was the median priced sold home. If you go back to January 10 of 2010, so just 2 years, previously, we had 12 months of inventory on the market, so tons of homes with no buyers. Where 2 years later, we were at 6 months of inventory. So that's supply and demand. That's still kind of a buyer's market. Median, just a reminder, 219,000. Total volume, active on the market, 341 million. In December of 12, we sold 44 million. And days on market was around 56 days. Interest rate was 3.3%, and their payment would have been $1,100, $1,180. It's almost $1,200. Back in 2012. Let's fast forward to 2020. You want to click one for me, Mal? So going fast forward, Biden's first just won the election, stole the election, maybe some people would say. Active median 540,000. So doubled. So we've doubled it in the fantasy land. Sold median before it was 219. We're at 408 by now. Okay, 408,000 was the median sold home. Inventory was at 0.85. So it was taking less than a month to sell every single active home for sale. And the active volume at that time was 260 million. Crazy.
It's wild.
They were going to move 260 million in less than a month is what the run rate was. In that month of December, we sold 173 million. So going back, 2012, we were at 44 million in the month of December. In 2020, we sold $173 million worth of residential real estate. Median days on market was 9 days on the market. They were just flying off the shelf. Interest rate 2.7%. This is why 2.7%. You could your fantasy payment. So before we were at $1,200. So for $700 more a month, you could get $200,000 more in a home. It's crazy.
It's like the same home though.
It's like the type of home, like what we build, like going back to the types of buyers, they all wanted the same thing. Like the house isn't all that much different, right? It's just the prices are different, right? So they're not bigger. They're starting to get bigger, but back then in 2020 they hadn't been yet. So fast forward to today, or at least December of 2023, sold median another $100,000. So just in 3 years, we're at sold median is 500,000. Active median is 685,000. So there's $185,000 over market value in the active homes on the market, which is the biggest as a ratio between what's active and what is actually sold. It's the biggest ratio since, 2012. Obviously we were coming in a lot closer, but now we have this big gap between what they want to get for the home and what people are actually paying for. We have 4 months of inventory.
So with that being said, I mean, maybe
slow me down.
Maybe sellers are still kind of hung up on what was happening back in 2018 to 2020 with home prices, right?
Yeah.
So or maybe coupled with it too, maybe people bought high in that time period and want to sell for what they paid for back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's weird because you're coming down in value while simultaneously the demand, people are still like, well, if the sticker says this, I want to pay close to what people are actually asking for. Where at one point in 2022, we had sellers only getting 94% of their asking price. So buyers were negotiating 6% down on that original, like what it was listed at. But that shows, active median 685, but where it actually sells is at 500,000. That's where the buyers are coming in, and they're definitely, negotiating to get down on the prices.
Well, part of it too is the active volume too. There's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of choice to make.
Yeah. And this is another, there's two ways of looking at this coin. So, we have right now the list to sell ratio percentage wise is sellers are getting 98%. So back in 22, buyers were really negotiating on down prices. So we had downward pressure on pricing. Now the sellers aren't moving as much on their price. Buyers are coming up and paying what the asking is. Active volume is $860 million. In October, we hit $1 billion in active residential real estate in Washington County. And we hit it twice in 22 as well. So we've hit that $1 billion active inventory mark here recently.
In little old St. George.
Where sold volume, 144 million in one single month is what we pushed through in sold volume. But the number of units, like the actual individual number of homes, we're down, I think, like 16%. No, 12%. Sorry. We're down 12% than a year previously. So the total unit number is down, but the volume is up. So it's like we have these really expensive homes that are on the market right now that are that's floating the market from my perspective.
Yeah.
So a lot of the homes are moving. So Sun River, for an example, there was 36 homes on the market at one point in Sun River. And over the last 30 days, basically most of the homes have sold under 500,000. But if you look back 2 years previously, nothing was selling under 500,000. Everything was flying off the shelf over 500. And now they're barely 500,000 is kind of like what's actually moving in there.
Mm-hmm. I like to look at desert color too. I mean, back in 2018 to 2020, more in COVID, but you couldn't get into desert color. There was nothing available at all. Now you've got over 100 units that are available in desert color and all different price points, but it kind of
different styles, types. Yeah.